Every successful person has faced difficulties in their life and career. My guests will share with us the challenges they have overcome on the road to success. Every week we'll follow their story right here in Life with me, Patti Boulaye. Where'd you go? Hello and welcome to Life with me, Patti Boulaye. My guest today is Jess Conrad OBE.
Oh, big Ed.
Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Jess is a great actor, singer, an all-round entertainer, and with a sense of humor that is going to make my face crack today. Jess, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Patti. I'm so thrilled to be here. Mind you, at my age, I'm thrilled to be anywhere.
Well, thank you. Okay, Jess.
Yes, Patti.
I've known you for many years.
You have.
Okay. And you have, every time I see you, I just prepare to just laugh a lot. Because you have a natural sense of humor. And the funny thing is, you always send yourself up.
Well, yes, I guess I do. I guess I do, yeah.
Well, that's
I
what's
guess
wonderful.
I think really because, you know, I learned very early on to laugh at myself because when I was at school, I couldn't read or write because if in the Second World War, I used to go to school with a gas mask under my arm, picking up shrapnel. And then I realised that if you didn't have a note from your mum and you weren't there, they assumed that you were killed in an air raid. So I didn't go to school for 6 months.
What?
And I used to go scrumping into Brixton, got on a bus. I was like Huckleberry Finn. I was in my own world, you know, and I used to spend the milk money on a loaf and I used to eat it slowly through the day. Come home. Jessie boy, did you enjoy your school? Yes, Mum, brilliant, you know, fantastic. And then about 6 months later, the school board man came round and he said, I'm sorry about the demise of your boy. She says, demise? What are you talking about, demise? She was a lovely woman, my mum. She was a South London beauty queen, but a real cockney, you know. She said, demise, she said, she said, sling your hook, go on, op it, out of it. He said, no, he hasn't been to school for 6 months. He really hasn't, Mrs. James, my real name. So anyway, off he goes, and then she gives me a good hiding, you know, clip round the ear, good in those days, and she put me in the coal hole where the gingerbread boy lived. She said this was a gingerbread boy who was supposed to live in the coal hole. And I was petrified because I didn't want to meet the gingerbread boy, and she put me in the coal hole, and I was like that all night, you know. Anyway, I came out and I went back to school, and then I came home, and I was tearful. I said, Mum, I can't read. I can't write. She said, never mind, Jessie boy, she said, you're the best looking boy in the school. Who's going to look at those ugly buggers who can read and write? So I went, lovely audience. So I went, I work slower so I get more of it. She said, so, no, it's true. So that was it, you know. So I kind of went through life thinking that, you know, I'm the best looking boy in the school. So, you know, I don't need to learn anything. So what happened later on, I grew up and my mum kept saying, oh, you've got really dark brown eyes, you're going to break a few girls' hearts. And she kept drumming this into me. So I put myself out of the way to break people's hearts and things. I mean, it was really strange growing up. And I became like a really good-looking boy in my teens, you know. And
Oh, you still are.
I thought you'd never mention it. Oh, I waited for that. Thank you. There's nothing wrong with your eyesight. So I said, so I grew up and so because, you know, I've had this conversation with Roger Moore, bless him, when he was alive, And he said, no, being a good-looking fella's terrible. Women hate you unless you're chatting them up and being nice to them. Men hate you because they think you're going to pull their wives and chat their wives up. So it's almost like, it is strange being like a nice-looking person because not everybody likes you. So I put this, facade on and tell jokes and sent myself up. And so, yeah, that's it. What was the question?
Well, it was.
How long have I done?
No, it really does work well for you, Jess.
Thank you.
But what did your mum do when you came home after the head of the school had been?
Oh, she gave me a good hiding. Put me in the coal hole with the gingerbread boy.
Well, what did she say to you? I
Well,
mean, surely she must have. If it had been my mother, you come back.
Well,
Did she ask you how school was today?
I mean, in those days it was me and Mum.
Okay.
And like most of my people my age, unfortunately, all the men were out at war. And then when Dad came home, like a year later, I thought, who's this? What you doing here? It's me and my mum. Who's this fella?
Oh, of course, yes.
So, Cockney boys are very close to their mums. And I mean, she gave me a good hiding because I hadn't been to school. I went to school, but I couldn't read or write. There was no desire to learn to read or write because my mum said I was great-looking boy, so I've got to go through life being a good-looking boy.
So
That's all
how
I
did you
knew.
end up in show business then?
And that's showbiz. During the Second World War, it was so dreadful that we lived in the cinema, and or the Variety Theatre. I used to go to the Brixton Empress, Camberwell Palace, both gone now. See people like Arthur Lucan, all those Little Titch, all those wonderful acts. And I used to go to the cinema, and they used to glorify gangsters in films in those days. And I thought, I think I'll be a gangster. Because there was James Cagney and Edward G. Robinson. They had all the pretty girls. I thought, I'll be a gangster. I'll be a gangster. And then I looked in the newspaper and I saw pictures of the Cray brothers. And they had with them blonde women. And you'd never see blonde women because they couldn't afford it in those days, the blonde dye, whatever it was. And I thought, oh,
Platinum.
look at that, the blonde, and they were smart, the Crays. They had so. I lived in Brixton, but I went into the West End every night because I wanted to become a gangster. So I was becoming a gangster, and doing naughty little things, and wondering when I was going to meet the Crays and stuff. And I used to go to the cinema. I could jib in every cinema in the West End. That means get in free. I knew everywhere I could get in free. So I used to go to the cinema, and I came out the cinema one day. And I'm sitting in this cafe, and opposite me was a guy I've just seen in a film. Cleopatra, I think it was called. And this guy didn't have any words, but he was the third centurion from the left. But he had a very distinctive face. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting there. I went, God, lama, I can duck. I said, here, hang on a minute. I said, I've just seen you in a movie. He said, yes. I said, well, after a while, I just couldn't help looking at him. I'd never met anybody from show business. I've just seen this fellow on the screen. I said, how did you get into show business? He said, you've got a good wardrobe, you're a good-looking boy. He said, go round to the FAA office. It's next to the London Palladium, stage door. He said, there's a woman there, you can charm her. I said, I'll give it a go, Governor. And I went round there to FA, Film Artists Association.
Okay, yes.
And they asked you lots of questions, and you have to answer them. And he said to me before I left, he said, say yes to everything. She said, can you ride a horse? I've never even seen a fucking horse, Play golf, never seen a golf course. I said, yes. Have you got a swimsuit? Yes. Do you want to see me in it? Not at the moment, she said. And everything I had, because I didn't mind, I'd do anything to get in the film game. So I did it, and then she said, this is the killer question, because if you don't know this, they sling you out. Mm-hmm. Have you got a dinner jacket? And I said, yes. Because I'd met a lady then, because I was dating older women, better off for me. And I had to take him to these places, see. So I didn't say that. I asked her to bought me a dinner jacket. So she bought me a dinner jacket, this old boiler. And so I had this dinner jacket on, and not on, but I said I got a dinner jacket. So she gave me my first job, and I went down to, I drove from Brixton over Waterloo Bridge, past Houses of Parliament, round Piccadilly Circus, up the Edgware Road, and I was there in about 45 minutes in those days. And I did my first film, Reach for the Sky, with Kenneth Moore. I was a young squaddy, and I went all the way through it, and I didn't want to be a gangster anymore. Now I'm in the game. I'm in showbiz. I was made up, and it was a wonderful thing. And I'm so glad it happened in my life, because I was certainly going down the wrong way, and it must happen to a lot of people. If you find the right job, you never work again in your life. And these people that want to retire, they can't wait to retire. I don't want to retire. I want to die in a dressing room. I don't want to retire at all. And that's because if you're in something that you love, you know. Anyway, so I'm a film extra now, and I'm earning fortunes. And not only that, I'm a bit of a boy, you see, a bit of a lad. And all these big American women were coming over, finished in Hollywood, but coming over to England. Ruth Roman, all sorts, a lot of the big stars. You know, I can't mention them all because some of them still alive. And so I thought, oh, some of them only had 6 months left, but some are still going on. So I used to talk to them on the set, you know, go and give them, go, hello, darling, I had lovely hair, dark hair, nice teeth, and talk to them, flatter them, you know, moody them up. And they used to say, would you like to come and have dinner at the Dorchester this evening? I said, yes, yeah, I like that. So I used to say to my mum, I'm going to the, here, Daddy's off to the bleeding Dorchester. And I was to go to the Dorchester with all these famous women and finish up, you know, scumpsy. So, diddly dum. So I had a wonderful youth, and then somebody came on the set and said a couple of lines, and I said, I can do that. He said, no, you can't, that's a different union. That's equity. In those days, you had to become a member of the Film Artists Association to be in films. Now anybody can do it. And you had to be in equity to mention a word. Mm-hmm. So I said, how do you become equity member? You have to go into rep to get your card. So in rep, I went into rep for 2 years, and in rep, I was earning a week what I, you know, I mean, in a day in a film extra, I was lots of money. In rep, you got 4pence a week. And I played all small parts and did all the work, and I went to Aberystwyth and things. And then one of the jobs coming back from there was advertising the Daily Sketch, which was a big newspaper in the days, and Kenneth Hume, who married Shirley Bassey, took a fancy to me and used me in this commercial. Daphne Shadwell, I think her name was looking for a young new actor to play a pop star in Play of the Week. Now, Play of the Week then was very important because there was the Film of the Week, Play of the Week, and the Palladium, and that was it. There was nothing else on television. There was only 2 channels. So to get the Play of the Week was fantastic, and I got the Play of the Week playing this pop star called Barney Day. And the next day, all the teenagers wrote in, who is Jess Conrad, and blah, 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 blah. And then Jack Good, who was the Simon Cowell of that era, saw me. Well, I actually, though I was a bit pushy, I went to see him, and he was rehearsing in Chiswick in the church. And I walked in, and Gene Vincent was there, Eddie Cochran was there, all these famous stars. And he saw me come, and he said, "What?" And he, like, I could see was his face. He said, "What do you want?" I said, he said, "Okay." He said, "I'll talk to you in a minute." So he said, "We're breaking early, boys." So I see Gene Vincent go and Eddie Cochran go, all these big, you know, rock and roll stars. And he said, "Well," I said, "I'm Jess Conrad." He said, "I know who you are." He said, "Everybody knows who you are. What do you?" I said, "Well, I thought perhaps I could introduce one of your shows." And he looked at me, he said, "Can you sing?" I said, no. I can move, because I used to win driving competitions. I used to take au pair girls over to Paris and win driving contests, so I could move. So anyway, he gave me a broomstick, and he put a record on, and I moved, and he said, well, he said, "Jess," he said, "you can't sing to save your life," he said, "but you've got certain teenage appeal. I can make you a teenage idol by next weekend."
Wow.
So I rang my agent. I'd got a good agent then, Al Park, who looked after Richard Todd and all those, Kenneth Moore, all those people. And I just auditioned for the young Vic. And my agent, very supportive, she said, "You know, darling," she said, "you auditioned for the young Vic last week. Well, they want you to play as cast. You know what that means, darling? You carry a spear in one production, and in another production, you'll have a few words to speak. Very, very good for your acting career." Or she said, "A man called Jack Good has phoned and wants you to become a pop star. Now, darling, what would you like to do?" I was 24. I said, "I'll become a pop star, please." And off I went to Disbury and did my first television show, which was a duet with Billy Fury called Chicka Chicka Honey. And I was voted England's most popular singer, the face of 1961, and ba ba ba, all for my good looks. I was the top of the bill above Matt Monro, everybody. And I was playing to 5,000 people a night. And all I was a good-looking boy from Brixton with an appealing smile. All down to my mum saying, you're going to do well. I still couldn't read, still couldn't write, and I have to have people to look after me because I don't know if I'm Arthur or Martha. Well, I don't know if I'm Arthur or Martha. I'm definitely Arthur. But
Jess, I want to take you back to when you said about gangster.
Yeah.
Now,
because they were very glamorous.
The
craze.
yeah.
I mean, they were terrible people, but they were very glamorous. And they were in
terrible.
The papers all the time.
Yes.
If you remember, with young starlets,
Yes.
like some of the famous people around.
Well, you see, because we've got the same problems now, particularly mostly in England with young black men, mostly because they have nothing to do, quite honestly, and it's the only way that they. What was the attraction to?
Black men?
Yeah, there's a lot
Kenny
of
Lynch
young
was
black
my
men.
best mate. I met him when I was 16.
Who?
Kenny Lynch.
Kenny Lynch.
We used to go to all the jazz clubs. I mean, we were teddy boys. Can you imagine Kipper, that's his code name, in a drape suit?
Well, sorry, I'm trying to. Sorry, Kenny. Guess
No,
you're
he's
watching
my mate.
this.
But yeah, go on.
Kenny's
sorry,
lovely.
sorry.
No, because I wanted to sort of find a message there to discourage young people from this, from wanting to be gangsters and wanting to be in, because really, I mean, it's short. It's a short life.
I was saved. I was saved by show business. I mean, I have to say I was saved. And you see, as I say, you have to find your vocation. And if you're happy in it, you never want to retire from it, and you live happily ever after. I can't read, I can't write, but God, am I a lucky person to have found something that I really enjoy. I want to die in a dressing room. So I can only say to young people
Yes.
that just be very sure when you choose a career that it's a career that you are going to be interested in.
Yes.
And you're going to love. Don't just become a window cleaner because somebody said it's good money or whatever. Try and
do something that you love.
Yeah, yeah.
But the wonderful thing, which we haven't touched on, is the incredible work you've done for charity. See, you're very modest. You kind of take, but you got an OBE for the amount of money you have raised in charity. So
well, I mean that was unbelievable. And Princess Anne, who gave me my OBE. I mean, people say, Jess, you're very charismatic. You've got presence, and you're charismatic. But when I stood next to her, I mean, she's not like what you call like a glamour puss.
No.
But she has this strong face like
Yes.
Baudelaire, and I was in awe of her presence.
Yeah.
And she had a great sense of humour. She said to me, because we all want the Queen, which is a terrible thing to say when you get your OB. She said, I hope you're not disappointed I'm not the Queen. I said, no, Mum, as long as you're not disappointed I'm not George Clooney. And thank God she laughed, otherwise I'd have been in the Tower of London. And then she thanked me for the money I'd raised over my long and illustrious career. And because I can't read or write, I thought, what's this illustrious mean? So when I got home, I looked up illustrious in the dictionary, and it's a wonderful word, isn't it? Illustrious means everything.
It certainly is.
And I was so thrilled about that. So Yeah, I mean, I, I have raised
You have raised a lot of money.
an awful lot of money.
You really
but
have.
I've enjoyed doing it. And, and once
Yes.
again, I did it mainly because I started the showbiz football team and all this, and I played in goal mainly because I got to wear a different colour costume than anybody else, and I loved it. I played. I played Jesus in Godspell for
Yes.
2 years. Then, because of the success of that, I was the very first Joseph, and I did that for years. Brought it to the West End twice, Vaudeville Theatre and Sadler's Wells, and all through that time, every Sunday I was playing football, charity football with people like Tommy
That's
Steele
right.
and
Yeah.
all that
Yes.
stuff. And
I
I'd
know you
raised
got
all that
the-
money.
yeah,
So, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, you one thing I know of you and Stephen, my husband, and I, is that you are a wonderful person to know. You really are. So oh shucks. And I'm really
Tell me how wonderful I am.
You are extremely wonderful,
no,
Jess
again.
Conrad. You're extremely wonderful.
No, thank you so much.
Thank
No,
you so
I mean,
much, Jess. Thank you. It's been an honor to have you. And from
an
what
honor
we
to
have
be here.
said, I've got a thought for today for you from Jess Conrad OBE. Set high expectations for yourself. You will only reap what you sow. So just think higher, because you can do anything you want. You can achieve anything you set your mind to. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.